So as you can see today, I have a little bit different of a setup today. I said today twice. So this is because I'm actually in my hometown right now, and so I don't have the normal lighting fixtures, whatnot. Actually, I'm only using the light from my phone, which is why it's kind of dark right now. The only other light in this room is behind me, so it didn't really provide the best face lighting, so I figured this was a better alternative. Although I do have the phone reflecting off of a whiteboard towards me as opposed to it just blaring in my face, which did provide better lighting, but then I was being blinded. So I chose to go with the slightly worse quality, although more comfort. So right now, I don't have too much to talk about today. I have a little bit I want to throw around, but the main reason that I wanted to stream today was one, because I have not streamed uh, very much recently due to the fact that I had finals in my college courses, and I was devoting a little bit more time to focusing on those finals, and just scheduling didn't really allow it. But like I said, I don't really have a topic I wanted to talk about in terms of the normal stream setup, and that's why I just have it labeled as an AI and chill, like I have done in the past. But what I do want to talk about, and the reason why I have the paint window up here on the left side of the screen, is because I got a new toy, and this is not the entire toy. This is the stylus, but I actually have this whole plastic thing here, and it's actually a drawing tablet. This was a relatively cheap purchase. It's a Turcom. I'm not sure what the model number is. I think it was 6580. I don't know what the specific name of the model is. This one was just relatively cheap, and I happen to have an Amazon card that would allow me to get it even cheaper. But this is exactly what I was looking for. For those of you that don't know what a drawing tablet is, it basically replaces your mouse. Now, I actually do have a mouse here, and I also have the touchpad on the laptop. So I actually have three different versions of a mouse in front of me. But this one is what I would consider the best option for what I want to be doing here on the stream. So what I want to be doing here on the stream is drawing diagrams and using a visual aid to help me explain things when I need to. So what is cool about this is that I can take the mouse. Oh, I can take this pen that I have here, and I can just draw how I would normally draw with a pencil. So I can go over here and let's draw a box, and then we can do some shading here on the top, and maybe some less shading over here, and there you go. So you can be a little bit more sophisticated in the drawing techniques. Although I am still using paint, so I have not invested in a more sophisticated drawing application. I do think that this is definitely a well needed upgrade for the drawing in general. So it's nice you can see the pen here, and I can do some quick movements. Although I would be able to do those on the mouse, um, that isn't necessarily as sophisticated, and it's a little bit harder to get a feel for drawing with the mouse. Whereas this one, I can simply draw however I would like to. Now, the way this works is it actually it has a sensor that is short range. So when the pen is within a range of the pad here, then it moves the mouse to that location. And what it actually does is the entire pad is proportional to the screen. So what it can do in that is that you can see that the mouse is jumping around here, and the reason for that is because there's no dragging. You don't need to drag the mouse to a specific location. You can simply move to that location and the mouse will be already there. This is a lot more convenient as opposed to the touchpad, which moves in I believe it's to scale, or it's right on par with a 1-to-1 scale. So when you move the finger across the touchpad, then it moves the exact same distance that you moved, which is nice in terms of getting a calibration with how far you need to move to get to something. But if I can get a feel of where things are on the screen, this will actually be a lot faster. And it also allows me to draw more sophisticated things. I can't really think of an I'll just draw a quick face or something. Um, so I can draw something like an oval, and it's a little bit easier to get into the nitty gritty details of it. Now this isn't the best face I've ever drawn, but I think it gets the point across. But yeah, I'm just gonna draw a smiley face. Okay. No, this isn't the prettiest face ever, but I think you can get the point. Um, so this will allow me to be a little bit more detailed with my diagram drawings. And like I said, it wasn't a big purchase. I think it was on sale, so it was only like $40 to begin with, and then I had a $25 gift card. So I picked this up pretty cheap, and you can find it on Amazon. I don't know if it's still on sale if you're interested in something like this. But what was nice was that this came with the driver itself, and no other programs were needed. It's automatic. It worked automatically. It was set up well for Windows 10, and it also works for Windows 8 and Windows 7. It may even work for models before that. I didn't look into it because it wasn't applying to me. But it also has these two buttons here, so you can actually see what you can actually see. You can use this as if it were a normal mouse. So with I set it up so the button on the bottom is actually my scroll wheel, so I can grab I can go into a screen and scroll left and right as if I were clicking in the scroll wheel. And then this top button here I have set up to be my right button, so I can go in and right click something with this, and so it completely replaces my mouse. I don't have to reach up onto the touchpad or anything for any circumstance. So it's pretty nice. The only condition is that if there's something where the button 3, the mouse button, the scroll wheel button, does a different function. Like, actually, I found this out when I was on the YouTube page. When you click the button 3, if you're on a link, it actually pulls that link up in a different window as opposed to pulling up the scroll wheel. This is something that I just need to learn to work around, or I can just get used to reaching up and doing the using the touchpad to scroll. That's not a big deal. But so I do think that this will allow me to have a significant amount, a significant tier higher of quality drawings, as opposed to just the mouse drawings. Now, there was something I did want to talk about today. I'm just going to clear the slate here. So I mentioned this previously. I didn't really go that in depth with it because I was kind of waiting until I had a larger audience to talk about this too, but I think I just want to get this out there so that I can begin the process of I'm planning to begin the process of it in general, but I want to just get this out on the internet and whatnot. So I have an idea for a comic, and this isn't this is just something I'm doing in my free time. It's not necessarily for anything specific, but the premise of the comic is actually theoretical superheroes. So what that means is there's superheroes that have powers that don't that don't really seem that spectacular, and then I have to get creative with how they save the day. And also, I can play off the fact of I can play off the idea of the flaws in their superpowers and whatnot. Um, so the first one I thought of is Utility Man, and this is someone that I've kind of based off my own persona, but exaggerated in certain circumstances where it need be, because superheroes are usually somewhat of an exaggeration. So I'm actually gonna sketch this while I'm talking about it. Just an idea of what I think this superhero would look like. So I'm gonna start with the face. So the idea of this superhero is actually that because he's utility man, he's supposed to be kind of like a jack of all trades. So or like a Swiss Army knife, as in a sense. So what I mean by that is that he's supposed to be pretty good at everything, and so whenever there's a circumstance where something needs to be done, they can call on him and he can get the job done. And what the idea of that is that the the significance of that is that he's always prepared for the situation, which allows him to kind of just be one step ahead, or maybe have the tool necessary to get the job done. Um, so yeah, so with the face here, I figured he would kind of look like a hiker, just because if a hiker were to come into a situation, hikers are usually prepared for the worst or for any random situation with stuff they have in their backpack. So I had him with instead of like a normal mask, he has a bandana with holes cut out of it. Um, and I'll just put in a little nose. If you're hearing any buzzing, that's because I'm using my phone as the lighting, so it's leaning up against the laptop. Um, so, uh, like I was saying, he's supposed to have a tool for every situation and be prepared for any situation. And obviously, I can't have him be too overpowered. So every superhero has a weakness, and I decided to make this guy's weakness something kind of bizarre, but it makes sense once you think about it a little bit. So the weakness that I chose for this superhero is the sound of soda cans opening up. And like I said, it sounds kind of weird at first, but the idea behind it is that when you open a soda can, it's almost too convenient, because back in the day you had to have can openers, you had like bottle opener or something. So this is something that I think, because of the convenience of it, and I think I'm going to extend this to all convenient appliances. Um, so because of the convenience of it, it just kind of like he doesn't know what to do with it. So because he's so good at doing things that people are bad at, or have trouble with, like maybe if they had a can they needed to open, he'd be the guy you'd go ask, because he'd know how to open the can. But yeah, so that it just seems like a little stupid, a stupid little um, weakness that would kind of level out his just being good at everything idea. So I figured he would, in designing him, he would have a vest that just kind of had a bunch of pockets on it. Just because, like I said, he's supposed to have a tool for every situation. So I figured he'd need somewhere to put those tools. So after that, he's gonna have just a regular T-shirt, and then um, on top of that, he's wearing cargo shorts. Now, this is somewhat of an homage to myself, because I do tend to wear cargo shorts a lot just because of the convenience of them, um, and I don't really care if they get dirty. But this is also a ploy on the fact that he's supposed to have a lot of storage space for all of the things that he's randomly going to pull out when the time is needed. Um, so I figured he maybe he's got a little bit of a beard going. And then you can get his ear in here. So I'll just add in a little bit of details, but I figured you will be able to see from his arm stance that he's going to be. I described him when I was originally throwing around the idea as gung ho. So he's going to be almost overconfident, but because he's so good at everything, then it's not necessarily overconfidence. So he knows what he can do, and he just sort of is always happy and excited about the situation. And so then I figured he'd always just be throwing out puns and just kind of keeping the mood almost overly confident in a sense. So this will also come into play a little bit later with some of the other ideas that I've thought of for superheroes, because it'll allow him to kind of bounce puns off of other people that will be kind of annoyed by it the entire time. Just adding in some shading here. And so what will be nice about that is he'll kind of be the comic relief in a sense when it comes to like quick conversation, and then there are some other deeper comic relief characters that I have thought of to come later. Now I do hope this to be generally comedic in total, but we will see how that comes out. I know that emotions aren't necessarily my strong point, so I would imagine that comedy would sort of come a little bit more naturally. Uh, I have started working a little bit on one comic just to start off. It's a simple heroes versus giant squid comic, so we'll see how that goes. But I did start drawing that a little bit. I think I might have shown that in one of the earlier streams on this channel, but I will let you guys know as I get more progress done on that. So yeah, so there's this vest that has some pockets on it, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with this picture. I just wanted a proof of concept. But yeah, so he's pretty much going to be just constantly firing puns at people who are in the misery of their normal day life, and then going off to save the day in sporadic, creative ways that are using tools that you may not be expecting. Not necessarily in like a MacGyver sense where he's just kind of throwing things together, but I'm hoping that this will be he'll be sort of a quick on his feet, sort of solving any problem that's thrown at him character. So there is a counterpart to this superhero, and I will be moving on to her in a second. There's some hair on his legs, and obviously some shading in the shorts. And get some there and some there. Get some more texture. Oh, and like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail on these drawings. They're more of a proof of concept. But I think you get the picture here with, get picture, with what I'm going for. I wanted to just have a guy kind of looks like a hiker. He's got a lot of cargo space, and so then the main touch was the bandana is his mask, and then we got this vest going. So I think that that's a good finished product for now. Maybe I'll add some coloring into the pants here. But yeah, so this is the general idea. I'm actually going to save this and post it on Twitter if you guys want to look at it anymore. And I will be moving on to my next superhero idea. But so this was, like I said, Utility Man. And now I will start talking about the next superhero. So this is the only other one that I've really thought out so far. This is a superhero I like to call Narcolady. So what her superpower is she's narcoleptic, and that may not seem like a superpower, but she's also extremely lucky. So what the kicker is that she falls asleep randomly, but it always works in her favor. And so that's the idea, and it's supposed to be kind of just like a strange, humorous concept. So my idea for her was that I'll just start drawing as I'm talking. So this would be something like she'd be standing in the middle of a road and a car would be coming, and and then just out of nowhere she would fall asleep, but she would fall in a way that would make her go under the car. So this is actually the design. Um, the way I had her looking was that she's wearing this mask, and it's actually a sleeping mask. So she's just constantly wearing it. I think in the comics she's probably not going to ever take it off, which will just be kind of like a humorous idea because she'll never actually be looking at anyone. But you could play off the fact that if she's extremely lucky, she could actually just luckily look at people, which I think would be a funny addition. But then I figured the rest of her outfit would just kind of be like a pajama set. So I had some stars on her shirt, and then just some long, comfortable sleeping wear with lines on it, because I don't know, there's a lot of sleeping uh, pants that just have lines on them, and maybe some fuzzy slippers or something. I just think it'd be funny if she's just ready to go to bed constantly. So, oh, I didn't mean to draw her arm that significant. Um, but yeah, so the idea is it's not significant in terms. She's not necessarily significant in terms of character development. She'll just sort of be randomly falling asleep. But I think it would be funny to see her somehow save the day by falling asleep, and then she wouldn't really be awake to see that she had done so. Um, that's somewhat of a large hand, but we'll go with it. Um, but I had her kind of teaming up with Utility Man simply because, um, one, I kind of designed her off of my girlfriend because my girlfriend sleeps a lot, and two, because I just think it'd be funny if he was so like energetic and like ready to dive into action, and then she just sort of nonchalantly fell off of buildings and attacked people in that way. Um, so This was just an idea of toying around with, and this is the general design I want to go with. I will be adding some touches here and there, obviously, but like I said, this is just sort of a proof of concept. So from here on, the other superheroes that I've been thinking of, I don't necessarily have designs for, so I wanted to kind of brainstorm a little bit. Um, Hold on, I'm saving this picture. So I'll start by describing them a little bit, and then I'll try and brainstorm. So the first one that I thought of, it requires a little bit of background. So in electricity, there's always we always consider things not in the circuit ground, and what the ground is a theoretically infinite source of positive charge. So when you're jumping a car, you always hook up one of the charges to the to a piece of metal because this is considered ground, and because it's considered a infinite amount of positive charge. Whenever the electricity is flowing through, it will want to go to this large positive charge supply as opposed to you. Although, if you are connected correctly into the circuit, you are technically ground. So, this is the idea. You want ground to not be including you so that when you're working on electronics, it's a safe process. This is prevalent in just everyday wall outlets. The third you get the two holes and the third one on the bottom. Now, this isn't seen in every country. This is in the U.S. Um, that third hole that's on the bottom is the ground part of the plug. So this is actually the part where um, where all the electricity is flowing back into to get out of the circuit. So my idea for a superhero was to have someone, instead of being a infinite source of positive charge, to be an infinite source of negative charge. And this has some interesting implications, but it would also make that person's life suck. So the reason for that is if he was infinitely, or if he was just an infinite source of negative charge, then everything would shock him. So I just pictured this guy to be like completely depressed, just sort of like reclusive, not really wanting to go outside because of this thing that anytime he went to like reach for a door handle or something, it would shock him. Anytime he shook someone's hand, it would shock both of them. It wouldn't really be a very pleasant experience. There is some benefits though, actually, of him being a source of negative charge. He couldn't actually be struck by lightning, which would be an interesting idea. So he could just walk out into a storm with no worries because lightning there wouldn't be a potential differential in order for the lightning to strike him. So I just think that's a funny concept. If ever he was fighting someone who had a power of lightning, they would just do nothing to him because he would just be constantly absorbing that differential. And also, if he were to grab hands with someone, he could actually transfer that negative charge to them, and then they would also temporarily have that power. Um, so this was something I was tossing around in my idea in my head. Idea. I don't know what I was saying. But I don't know. I figured actually the one thing that I knew I wanted him to have was actually platform shoes, because of the idea that if he's touching the ground, then he would probably be just like constantly putting electricity into the ground, because obviously the ground is an infinite source of positive charge. So I just kind of pictured him being this like emo character that's kind of just like reclusive, but wearing really thick platform shoes. So start there, I guess. Um, probably get some combat boots, maybe. Um, So yeah, that's the general idea I was going for. I don't know. We can. I think he would probably want just every part of his body covered if possible. Um, just simply because of this situation where everything he touches would shock him. Um, so we got these big combat boots. I got a little sloppy with the second one here, but I think the idea is across. And so he's got some dark pants on, and obviously you wouldn't want anything. You'd want something clothy, I would imagine, not necessarily. I mean, it could be like a latex idea, just because that would have a little bit more difficult of a time transferring that source. But I guess it would depend on the situation. If he were actually trying to use his power um, to fight something, he would want to be able to transfer that electricity. Um, so that's an interesting concept, but I think I'm a little off on my proportions here. The feet seem a little bit large, but like I said, this is just proof of concept. Oh no, this is coming out fine. Um, so yeah, he's probably got big gloves on. Excuse me. Ooh. So we got these big hands just because he's got the big rubber gloves on. That would actually go a little further up if they were rubber gloves. So we can color that in a little bit. So yeah, I figured everything about him would just be kind of dark and depressing. And what's nice about that is if he's in the same place as Utility Man, then obviously Utility Man being the punny kind of gung ho guy that's just gonna be constantly throwing out jokes and making puns, much like the olden day superhero comics with the uh, Robins of old that weren't all dark and depressing. They were all um, holy cannoli Batman. I don't know. Um, this would kind of play off of that idea and be almost satirical in a sense. But this guy obviously is going to be very uh, sunk into his emotions and sort of reclusive. Um, I think that I might have gone a little bit significant with the appendages and not necessarily as large as necessary for the head, but obviously I can't go with the idea of like a gothic person because any piercings would cause problems for someone who is statically charged. But I think this is just sort of a nice prototype drawing. The hands are a little bit large, the feet are a little bit large. I would need to tone this back a little bit. But this is the idea I'm going for. Someone just somewhat reclusive, somewhat emo in dressing, and just overall kind of depressing, just because of the lifestyle he would be living. Um, wouldn't necessarily allow him to have many friends or to go out that often, so he would just be stuck to uh, his own persona. So this is a good point. I do need to brainstorm a little bit on the name. I'm gonna try and think of a quick one here. So we have uh, we have utility man and narco lady. So this I was thinking like negative Nathan or something, but that just seems too cheesy. Um, uh, it could just be like depresso or something. I think that's gonna be a nice placeholder. I'll go with that depresso. Then I'll probably I might change that later, but I think it's a funny name for now. Uh, so I'm going to move on to the last one that I have thought of so far, and I would like to mention that if you have any suggestions for theoretical superheroes, I am completely open to them. I want to create an entire community of them once I'm getting a little better at making the comics themselves. I'm not sure if I'm going to make the comics on the computer or if I'm just going to hand draw them and scan them in so that they can be viewed on the internet. But I need to get a little bit better at drawing the comics themselves in terms of formatting and whatnot. So I will be working on that a little bit in the future. But so yeah, I have one more idea for the superhero, and I'm just gonna start drawing right away. I'm gonna go close up on the face just because I don't necessarily think that there's any other significant features so far. Um, and so this guy is also kind of a little bit interesting in a sense, and the reason is because I'll just come out and say the superpower. So the superpower that this guy has is actually that every time people look at him, they just kind of get sick to their stomach and lose their appetite. And the funny thing is, he's not gonna actually be ugly. So it's just gonna be like everyone in the world that he lives in sees him as ugly, but he's actually just gonna be like a normal guy. So that's what I'm kind of hoping I can play off of, because I just think it'd be funny if every time he walked into a group of people, they just kind of like looked at him and then just kind of either threw up or just said gross or something. Um, so I think that'd be funny. But the thing is, with the character, I think that I'm going to have him so that he's just kind of like either ignorant to it or just sort of immune to everyone just kind of thinking he's ugly. But I don't know. I haven't really thought this guy too much. I thought this guy out too much. I just think it'd be a really funny concept. So I was thinking that in terms of his super name, it'd just be some normal name like Steve, um, just because that would just kind of add to the idea that there's nothing wrong with him. Just even though everybody else just kind of like pukes when he shows up. But I did want him to make him look like a little weird. I don't know, maybe like just kind of a bizarre afro looking perm haircut. So yeah, like I said, he's just gonna be kind of like an everyday guy. But I think it'd be funny if he saved the day just because like he showed up and he's like, "What's going on?" And then Godzilla's about to eat someone, and then he's just kind of like, "Oh gosh, I lost my appetite," and then kind of just leaves. But um, I don't know if that's the exact scenario I'm gonna go with. But yeah, no, I think I'll have fun with this guy. Um, Seems I would have gotten a text message. So yeah, I think it'd just be sort of like a normal looking guy. I'm try to make him look a little less obese. Um, but I think that's the general concept I'm going for. Obviously, he'd just be in sort of everyday clothes, maybe a t-shirt, um, or perhaps even like a polo, just to show that like uh, he's kind of aware of his situation and trying to look better. Or, I don't know. I like I said, I hadn't really thought this guy out too much. I just think it'd be hilarious if just the concept of it. Um, yeah. So this is the idea I was going for. Just like an average Joe. I don't want to call him Joe because that would be too obvious. I think Steve is probably what I'm gonna go for. Um, but the a couple interesting ideas that were sort of thrown out to me by friends I've talked to would be that like Narcolady, because she has the mask on, wouldn't necessarily be affected by him. Um, but at the same time, she's kind of just like out of the entire situation. So I don't know that there would necessarily be like a romance or anything. Um, I think that Narcolady would just kind of be. Narcolady is sort of just going to be like a Ferb character. If you ever watched Phineas and Ferb, just kind of there and then like epic by how just randomly they're successful. But yeah, so I think this is a good prototype drawing. So I don't really have a name for this guy yet. Just like I with Depresso. Um, no, oh, actually, I do. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna call him Steve, and I think that'd be hilarious if everyone in the world of these theoretical superheroes is just sees him and immediately just like gets nauseous and sick to their stomach. Um, because obviously there's nothing really wrong with this guy. He looks like a normal guy. So then I figured it'd be funny just in the comics to he'd show up and then he'd be like, "How's it going?" And then he'd just show a close up of his face, and then everyone would just be puking. But I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting idea just to throw that around. Um, but these were the four that I have ideas for so far, and I don't necessarily have any other things I want to talk about. I will be trying to get a little bit more done on the coding so that I can have an update for you on Wednesday. Like I said, I'm sorry that I wasn't able um, to keep up to date with the schedule recently, just because I have had finals, but I have a week break before I go back to summer classes, and then even during the summer I have a lot more time, so I should be able to be able. I should be able to get the streams out on time. I may need to push the time that I'm streaming back a little bit just because of the way that my class schedules are set up. Um, so I think that I might be streaming more around 8ish just because I have afternoon classes, so that might cut it close with the 6 o'clock stream time. But I should be able to keep up with the Saturday and Wednesday streams. If any changes happen, I will notify you guys on Twitter. Um, but other than that, I don't have too much I want to talk about. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you're watching later on just regular YouTube, you can either subscribe, like, I don't know. I really don't care. I just enjoy coming on here and talking about whatever I feel like talking about. And if you enjoy listening, then stick around because I'll be streaming much more in the future. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will most likely see you on Wednesday.